doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Welcome back to the Skiff. We're honored to have, first time on the show, Sakari Linden from Helsinki. I'm going to bring him on, and we're going to dig right into what's going on in Moscow and in Europe. Hey, thank you for coming on, Sakari. You come well recommended. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
So you are a geopolitical analyst in Helsinki, but you were just in Moscow, and I'm curious. Was it Moscow where the conference was, or was it in another city in Russia?
So actually, I'm based in Brussels because I formerly worked in the European Parliament as a political advisor, and I participated in the Arctic Forum, which took place in Murmansk, in the Arctic region of Russia.
A very important subject and geographic area for the U.S. We're talking about Greenland, Canada. Russia is increasing its capability, and China's getting involved. Russia has a very strong capability in the Arctic with icebreakers and a military presence and research. What was your impression coming from the conference?
Yeah, the conference was a really big event, and it highlighted how big an issue is the Arctic and all the opportunities which the Arctic region provides, not only for Russia but for and not only for Arctic countries but for the whole world. Mm-hmm. So it became very visible that now that the collective West has got its ties, even on environmental cooperation. The vacuum is being filled by other countries, mainly BRICS countries like China and India. But what was very interesting to read some weeks ago, that the United States at the moment is interested in making a new kind of cooperation with Russia in the Arctic region. So that would be one example more about the capabilities of the United States to play European Union and European countries outside of economic opportunities.
What was the mood of the Russian people, Russian officials, regarding what's happening in the world? You've got peace negotiations in Ukraine. You've got Zelensky still trying to keep the war going. I mean, what did you feel like the people were? What was their view of the world, if you will?
I felt like, of course, Russian people, Russian leaders are aware of the extremely high tensions in the world at the moment. But simultaneously, they are quite self-confident. They are aware what is the situation on the ground in Ukraine, and I felt like they think that they can end up in a good outcome in the negotiation with the US and eventually with the European Union if needed.
Do you think? I mean, you're from Helsinki, though, right? That's your.
I'm from Finland, but from another part of the country. Yeah,
I see. So, what is does Europe really have? I mean, Finland joined NATO, which is an interesting topic in itself. But does the European people have the will to do anything more in Ukraine? Send peacekeepers, fund the war, because the U.S. is likely to back away. What do you think the European response will be to that?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk in the European Union at the top level in Brussels about doing something with regards to Ukraine. But actually, and it's true that they have consumed a huge amount of money, and also they have sent a huge amount of weapons to Ukraine. But what has been the result is that European Union countries are at the moment in financial problems, and because of the sending so many weapons to Ukraine, many of the EU member states are their armed forces are increasingly depleted, and if the European Union can do something more, of course, they at the moment at the level of European Commission, they have grandiose plans about rearming European Union countries and make new cooperation proposals, which could end up making European Union as some kind of foreign and security policy player. But it takes extremely long time to create something in the field of military. So if they can, I'm quite skeptical if the European Union can really make a difference in Ukraine. But it's the situation in Ukraine is a double-edged sword for the European Union. On the one hand, is a big opportunity because they can paint a picture of very big threat from the part of Russia, and they want to go towards forming a European Union federation, make a unitary state actually. But on the other hand, what is very threatening for the EU elites is that it's also a big threat if they can't go out of the Ukraine war because of losing faith. They have made all their credibility because they have participated so strongly in the war there. And actually, if they end up losing their war in Ukraine, in my view, that will be the end of the European Union because they lose their credibility, and increasingly many member states will look for independent foreign policies and look for partners outside of the center of Europe.
Well, that brings up a good question. How can Trump and Putin and those in Europe that don't want continuing war, what's the path forward? I mean, you've got Zelensky, and he's supported by elements of the U.S. and in Europe that want the war to continue for the exact reason you said, in that it reduces their power if it stops. So we're in a dangerous place, right? How do you see the way forward? What would be good to happen?
Yeah, we are definitely in a very dangerous phase. So actually, Russia can't back down because it's an existential war for them. But simultaneously, it's kind of existential for European Union as well. It's very positive that Trump has made an effort to launch the negotiation. Even the fact that US and Russian counterparts are meeting each other, it's very positive. And somehow Zelensky and EU leaders should be made facing the cold reality that actually the collective West has lost its war in Ukraine, and now what is at stake is the world peace, and we have to make a kind of compromise. And normally, when there is a war, the winner of the war, which is at the moment Russia, it has the most cards at hand.
Well, let's talk about the Russians. Their economy is doing very well because of the war primarily. We put a story out yesterday that even an anti-Putin publication in Moscow, the Bell, put out that the Russians are the happiest in a decade. They're making money, but yes, it's a war economy. But what's the mood of the average guy in the store in Murmansk? Or I don't know if you spend any time in Moscow or St. Petersburg, but what do you feel the Russian people really are thinking? Are they happy? Do they see Putin as a strong leader? What do they think?
I hadn't been to Russia for some years now, so I think it was more than 3 years I hadn't been there. I felt like pretty much nothing had changed there, and to my eyes, Russians are living a normal life, and actually. Even Murmansk, which is like a kind of small city in the periphery of Russia, level of infrastructure was very good there. I also spent a little bit time in Moscow, and it's a really modern world megalopolis, which has an extremely high level of infrastructure, and to my eyes, it looks. From that perspective, it looks much better than cities in Western Europe. For example, Brussels, where I'm living at the moment. What about what comes to Russian economy? Yeah, the economic growth last year was 4.1%, which is higher than in the major EU countries, and if I remember correctly, also higher than in the US. The forecast for this year is a little bit lower, 1.3%. But all the time, Western analysts haven't got the realistic. The forecasts have been much more negative than the real outcome finally has been. The really big problem in Russian economy is inflation, and also I noticed that it's not that cheap, even though the level of ruble has been forced to adapt to the new reality of having exportation more difficult, especially towards West. Yeah.
What about, I know there's a lot of sanctions. I've spent time in Moscow years back and other parts of Russia, and Ukraine as well. But what about the stores? Is there product in the stores, the cheeses, the meat, the eggs? I mean, are people having any problems getting what they need to live a normal life, or is it pretty abundant?
I went to different food stores, both in Murmansk and Moscow, totally randomly. I must say that the food stores have everything, and in very abundant manner. Yeah. And I would say that the level of quality of many food is really high there. Russian people are proud of having gene manipulated products banned there. I don't want to say what is my opinion about that, but they seem to be very proud of that. And level like the quality of fish restaurants in Murmansk, it's amazing. I couldn't believe that. It's much better than in many parts of Western Europe, even in highly praised culinarist countries.
Thank you for your insights, Sakari. It's extremely interesting, and Americans don't hear this, and that's why we wanted to have you on. But how do people follow you, and how can they stay in touch with you if they want to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm present in many social media. For example, on X, Sakari Linden, Sakari 2025 is my profile there. I'm also present on Facebook. Yeah,
great. Thank you. I want to have you back down the road. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.